All right. What's going on, Mediocre Gamer family? What's happening? We are back. It is I, Anthony, with my good friend AJ, my best friend of 2 weeks now. It's 2 weeks, AJ. Can you believe it?
It's
We're
been two
moving
weeks.
in this
Well, it's been
relationship
more
so
than two
fast.
weeks, but this is week two.
I mean, listen, that part. AJ, how are you? How are you today, AJ? What's going
Doing
on?
good. I'm doing good. Just finished up my day of work. Now I'm excited to
Ooh.
talk some Alan Wake and some exciting upcoming gaming news with you.
Exactly. But listen, before we get too deep into Alan Wake, because we're going to talk about Alan Wake, don't you worry, you're pretty little head. AJ, Spider-Man 2, at the point in time of recording this, comes out Friday, Thursday, Friday?
This
Later
Friday.
this week.
This Friday.
This Friday? There it goes. And the natural contender, because I love Spider-Man PS4. I need you to understand Spider-Man PS4 is why I have a PS4 at this moment. Okay? The exact reason. There's a whole story about that. Um and yeah, and I thought it was game of the year, but the problem is it came out right before Red Dead Redemption 2. And the problem with both of those games coming out in the same year is that it came out the same year as God of War. And so God of War got game of the year.
Yep.
So, AJ, I said all that to say, do you feel that Spider-Man 2, PlayStation 5 is going to be game of the year?
No. No. I.
No, okay, cool.
I just because there's. I think it deserves it, but it's the wrong year. There's other. It's not going to beat Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, that game's
That okay,
a
well listen,
phenomenon right now.
Because here's the thing. We've had this conversation about whether or not right now is the best time to be a gamer. Right?
Uh
We've
huh.
had this conversation. We disagree because I kind of think it might be the best year. Only for the simple fact of this year alone, two of the highest rated games of all time came out. Baldur's Gate 3 and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
All time. And then on top of that, we have Resident Evil 4 remake, Starfield, Diablo 4, Street Fighter 6, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Lies of P. Like some of the Payday 3,
Mortal
like some
Kombat
of
1.
the
I
Mortal
mean,
Kombat 1, Street Fighter 6, like Dave the Diver, like
yeah.
some of the big, like I was talking with somebody about this earlier, and it's basically the year of everybody. Everybody has something.
Uh
Not
huh.
only do they have something, they got some really good something.
Yeah.
Okay? You want a
I
strategy
mean,
game? Get you a Baldur's Gate, okay?
shoot,
You want a
even
fighting game? Pick one.
we even have a Remnant 2. That's like was big
Remnant 2,
for a little
Dark Souls with
bit.
gun. Come on now, what are we talking about?
Liza P came out, which I don't think they'll take Game of the Year, but that's still like I mean, there's even
It's a
Jedi
listen. It's
Survivor,
real.
Horizon 2, like it Hogwarts. We had some big hitters.
Like some huge hitters. Like I don't. Here's the thing. Because I feel like if Spider-Man came out without Red Dead Redemption 2, if it came out without God of War, Spider-Man would have got Game of the Year hands down. However, I don't know if the Game of the Year competition has ever had this much competition. I don't know if there's been this many frontrunners ever.
I'd argue like back during the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis era, there was like very hard competition when you first had Mario and Sonic. Like that was a
Yeah,
big deal at the
yeah.
beginning, but that's not a
But that's
bunch of
just
variety.
Mario and
That's
Sonic.
platformer to platformer competition.
There we go.
So that is
It would,
not variety.
yeah, it would be like if Mario, Sonic, Doom, and Civilization came out in the same year. Like it would be
Yeah.
it would be like hard, right? And
Yep.
so obviously I'm waiting for the game of the year because don't they only nominate either 4 or 5 games period to even be selected?
Yeah.
I mean, there are more than 4 than 5 great games
That deserve it. And this year's not over yet.
that deserve it.
This year's not even over yet. I mean, we have we're about to talk about Alan Wake 1, but we have Alan Wake 2 coming out this year. Um,
I
oh,
pray
I
that
just
it's
saw a list
great.
of a bunch of big games. It's escaped my mind, but there's some other big games coming out this year this year is not over yet. But we have a new
It's
Super
not
Mario
over.
Bros. Coming out here really soon with Mario
That's
Bros.
right, Super
Wonder.
Mario Brothers Wonder, where you can be an
Yep.
elephant. AJ, do you
Yes,
want
the
to be an
elephant.
elephant, Mario?
So I mean, and here's where I'm really worried. I'm worried it's gonna have kind of a Tears of the Kingdom effect where it's a really great game, really good follow up, makes the first one kind of hard to go back to because of all the improvements it made, but it really just made a bunch of improvements. It didn't really like change the game, you know. And I'm not asking for
So
this like big revolutionary change or anything, of course. Like I enjoyed the first game so much, but like at the same time, I really want it to advance more than just switching up some combos and abilities. You know, I really hope
No,
they
for
do
sure.
more.
So to get into Alan Wake, for those of us who haven't played Alan Wake, go play Alan Wake because it's great. And
Absolutely.
uh, yeah, I remember AJ and I we were going back and forth about whether or not Alan Wake 2 was anything to be excited about, and I was trying to tell AJ, I was trying to convey the fact that it's a cult classic for a reason. Whether or not you agree with the reason, subject to debate, but for a reason, people wanted another one of these.
Yeah. So full disclosure, I am not. I don't like horror or anything like
Mm.
that. You know,
Really?
no, I not at all. And so I knew nothing about the game. Went in 100% blind, and I loved it. I truly did,
Okay.
and I think it wasn't really like a horror. And it's funny actually, as I say that, I wish they dialed up the spooky horror elements more. I actually started getting bored after
Mm-hmm.
a while, and then I got reinterested. But we'll get into that.
Okay.
I yeah, so like when I found out it was a horror game, I was like, uh oh, like we'll see how like this goes. At least it's quick, whatever. And man, just from the story, the really unique gameplay, it was a great game. I'm shocked I never played it before. Uh, it is, for anyone wondering, I got it for $2 on Fanatical, so highly recommend. It doesn't really cost much. 9 hour ish
I'm a
experience.
I gotta stop you right there. I'm a Sony pony, and Sony remastered it on the PlayStation 4, PS5. I
I,
paid $25 for it.
I saw
So
that.
I mean, so like, and that's another thing. That's another thing for another day. Granted, hold up, great for a $20 game. Oh my god! But if you can get it for $2, I would do that more than the
Yeah.
$25 option. But you can continue. I'm sorry, I just had to chime in there.
It was awesome. With all that being said, as a heads up to everyone, we are going to avoid spoilers for the most part until the very end. So don't worry, and we'll let you know when that part's coming up. So don't worry, we're going to be as spoiler free as
Exactly,
possible up
exactly.
until then.
And so
Um,
AJ, I got a couple of fun facts about the game
okay.
if you're interested. If you're interested. For one, did you know that this is the next game after Remedy worked on Max Payne 2?
Yeah. Yep. I did.
Okay. Took 10 years for them to make this game.
Yeah. No, it took them a long time. Well, because it was originally supposed to be open world.
Which is why the levels are big. The levels are
And that's
huge.
where the vehicles came in. That all those vehicles were used going to be used in the open world. And I gotta say, I'm really happy they didn't stay open world. I think
Hmm.
it wouldn't have been as good. It was because keep in mind this came out during early PS3. I mean, we're like first getting into open worlds. I think this
Mhm.
would have been a somewhat empty open world game.
Oh, 100%. It would have been like a scary Grand Theft Auto 4. Like Grand Theft Auto 4 is a big game, but there's also not all that much to do, which is crazy. You take it to Grand Theft Auto 5, there's less to do in the
Yeah.
open world. But even just in the sense of like the levels look a lot alike, which
Yeah.
it works in the context of the story.
And that was my problem in the beginning. Was the levels
Mm.
like the for the first like 2.5 chapters, I was like, okay, I'm tired of Foggy Forest. Like it feels like I'm running down the same paths. And then it was shortly after the police chase scene, without giving too much away.
Hmm.
Right after that, we started switching up what we were doing. Like we went up into the mountain, and then there was an extra person that helped give that a
Hmm.
little more juice. That part. We met someone we've been waiting to meet for a while, and then after that we drove and went to the junkyards, and I'm going into this underground mine, and like all of a sudden,
In the caves and
yeah,
yeah.
we got some differentiating scenery, and that's what also made it boring in the beginning. I'd be walking, the forest would be all tight, and then all of a sudden it'd widen up a bit, and it would get foggy, and you go, oh, I know it's coming. Sure enough, there came the
Hmm.
the shadow demon zombie things. It became
And
very
you
predictable in those first
And you know something though, I
bit.
feel like the predictability helps definitely later in the game, but even in the same
Yes.
level, like just for those of us who don't know, in Alan Wake you fight the darkness. Hard stop. It's just if it's dark, you fight it. And sometimes the darkness not only possesses people, but it possesses things, and sometimes it throws things at you, like rocks or wheelbarrows or whatever.
Yeah, and
And
then like when it, and this is early on, so I feel comfortable saying this. When it will take over like a vehicle, like I remember in level 1, like I mean we're talking 20 minutes into the game here, you'll be in like this cabin, and all of a sudden it just takes off towards the cabin and shoves it over the cliff, and it was at that point where I was like, whoa, like what's
like,
going
what is
on?
going on here?
Like no one was driving that. What just happened? Yeah, that's where I was like, okay, like there's something more to this. And speaking of which, like the gameplay, like what was so cool about it is that so you had to there's shadows, right? So you have to hold up a flashlight, get the like shadow to it almost looks like it takes its form, and then you can deal damage with your gun, right? And so like everything was light based. Follow the light, like the light protects you, and so
The checkpoints in the levels were like little lights that would be like on a trail or
Yep.
in the street, and I thought that was very
Well,
nice. And
and
also it led to some very tense moments where you're running from shadow people, and you turn on the little generator, and the light comes on, and everything
yeah.
around you dies. It's like, oh yes, I did it.
Yes, or like you're running up to a light and it goes out, like it breaks right before you get to it, and you're like,
And
oh
it's like, no,
shit.
like that's
Like,
not what need to happen.
yeah, yeah.
Um, And then also, one thing that I thought was like really cool. I feel like Alan Wake is actually ahead of his time. For one, I feel like it plays like a Souls like.
With
I don't
guns.
know if you got that
Yeah.
same feeling,
I totally get what you're
but
saying.
but here's the thing about it playing like a Souls like, because it's very much like, okay, this is an enemy. This enemy has a pattern. I have to like either gauge what I'm gonna do with this weapon, or I'm gonna just like power through. I'm gonna get a shotgun. I'm gonna get a flare gun. I'm gonna get a weapon with a lot of light on it and make it happen. But there's a couple of things about it being a Souls like, is that one, I have it written down here. Like there's no parry, for example. I feel
Yeah.
like they may have fixed it in the next game, but there's no parry, there's no roll, and there's no healing, which makes it even more stressful.
I hope they if they add that, I hope they do it right, but I honestly hope they don't, because like the dodge sucked. It wasn't a roll, and I think that's what added to the scariness of like you don't have like this guaranteed invincibility framed roll. It is this like
Yeah, no,
duck
no,
out
no,
of the
no,
way. If
no.
you
It
duck
was
the wrong way, like you're still getting hit. It
it's a
doesn't
wrap.
matter that you dodged.
For sure, right? So let's see. It plays like a Souls like, and then
I
also, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. In continuing that, like the light thing, like I liked how your flashlight worked as a way, like as a reticle in a way. Like you would aim, like
Hmm.
because like in a flashlight, there's like the center beam that's brightest, and then everything around it's kind of like light. And so that center
Hmm.
beam was like your reticle in a way, and I thought that was a really unique way to have that work as your aimer. Like that was creative.
For sure, yeah, no, and then just even the fact, like the way that there wasn't a parry, but you could stun enemies with the flashlight. I don't know if you ever caught up on that.
Oh yeah, if you would quick stun them, it would like push them away.
Yeah, or like sometimes how you have to manage your ammo was like really smart, and like you'd have a shotgun. So it's like, okay, great, I'm gonna mow everybody down. Nope, you gotta get through this dark thing. And sometimes you're like, you know what? I got some ammo in my pistol still. I'm gonna just use the shotgun and just push them back, and then I'm gonna
Yeah.
still use my flashlight. Like, you can build interesting combos and interesting layouts, but like, and then it becomes a thing of just like, man, if I had a loadout, if I could just be like, you know what, I'm gonna go in with the flare gun and my shotgun, I'm gonna be okay. But it's just like, no, you start every level off with a flashlight and a pistol, and you find weapons as the level goes on. And again, it makes sense in the context of the story, which we're gonna talk about in a second. But it was still just very much just like, just like, if
Yeah.
only.
And I really liked how the weapon progression system worked. I really want that to flesh out a bit. Like I liked how like the first few chapters it was just a double barrel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you eventually got a pump, and
Got a
like
pump.
and like you wouldn't always get it, and sometimes it's not like it's upgraded, but like it was still a weapon
Yeah, but like
progression
you could
system. As you got
alternate.
further, some weapons got better. So what I want to see in the next one is how we had a revolver as our pistol. I want to see just like a regular like mag like
Yeah,
1911,
no, semi.
1911 or something like that. Or like a Desert Eagle as like the upgraded version. So it's still like a powerful pistol, but has like a mag. You have to click, 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 and a little bit quicker reload. Has more whatnot. And then like for a hunting rifle, maybe we can get a sniper or something, or just like a nicer hunting rifle.
Yeah.
So that way it's like there is
Yeah.
that progression, because I thought that was odd that the shotgun was the only one that got like any sort of progression.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then in all the gameplay trailers, again, we don't have any backdoor access unless you know somebody that I don't. But yeah, no. In all the trailers, it does look like we're updating the weapons. Does look like we have a semi-automatic handgun. Does look like the flashlight. AJ, this is gonna blow your mind, dude. The flashlight is on the barrel of the shotgun
Oh yes, I did see that, dude.
now.
Yes.
It seems, unless you played the game, you're just like that. That's how shotguns are. It's like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah,
You
no,
don't.
that's a massive part of the game. I
Yeah, it's
Speaking of Alan Wake 2, I'm really excited for ray tracing.
yeah. I mean, all the gameplay from Alan Wake 2 looks amazing, but here's the thing. Here's the question that even got us into this particular kind of set of circumstances here. Do you feel like it's gonna the story, the game itself, Alan Wake 2, do you feel like it's gonna be too weird for audiences?
I don't think everyone's gonna get it. I definitely think Alan Wake 1 is gonna needed to be played. I don't see how they can make 2 able to be like understood. And of course anyone can go play it and whatever. But it's such a story based game where, I mean, quite literally the game you're playing is a story that's being narrated to you by the main character. Like it
In an episodic format,
Yeah.
much like Lost of the Time, that was kind of like what they were emulating, like the whole Lost, like last time on Alan Wake, that whole kind of thing. But
Yeah.
now, like, I feel like they were ahead of their time just in the era of streaming.
Yeah, well, they wanted to make Alan Wake 2 right after 1. It's Microsoft
Mhm.
put a kibosh to it. And they're like, nope, didn't make enough numbers. Nope.
I mean, it didn't. I mean, in Microsoft's defense, and I hate defending billion-dollar companies, AJ. You know I hate this. But in their defense, Alan Wake did not sell a
No.
lot. And honestly, I don't know how you market this game when you consider what came out at the time. Like, I don't know how you market Alan Wake in a landscape where Grand Theft Auto 4 is like the big super game. Like, I don't know how you do that.
It's impossible, especially like with what games are even popular nowadays. Like it's not this free to play battle pass game that can sell microtransactions. It is you play
No,
through
it's
it
a single
once.
player story driven mission.
Yeah, you play through it once and then you pick it up maybe every year around Halloween. Like for as a spooky game.
Every year around Halloween. I will say, hold up, just for full context, I didn't play any of the DLC, the American Nightmare DLC, which introduces Mr. Scratch. That's a whole thing. Did you play any of the DLC?
No, I did not. I really want to. I just ran out of time.
No, it's okay. It's all good. But yeah, no. So just full context, we're talking about just base game. Obviously remastered to run on a PlayStation 5, or you played it on PC, didn't you?
Yeah, and I didn't play the remastered. I played the
Oh,
PC
oh, you
release. Yeah.
played. Oh, you got all the good jank. You got all of it.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what I'm talking about. I will say, and then I don't even feel like it's fair to rate it. I don't feel like it's fair to be like 8 out of 10. Just because it is a decade old game, really more than a decade at this point, running on state of the art hardware. I don't feel like that's
I
fair to
I
any
want to
game.
rate it for the time period it was on. So it was an Xbox 360 and PS3 game
Mhm.
originally, and there was even like there's jokes which I'll get to that were in the PC version because
Mhm.
Microsoft didn't want to put it on PC.
No, because nobody was gonna play it. Well, okay. Again, I hate defending billion-dollar corporations, but PC gaming has only just become like the superpower that it has become, right? So like the game came out 2008, right?
Yeah,
Like, so the same year Obama got elected, like, who is playing PC? Like, outside of the people who want to run Crisis, outside of the
CS:GO.
people,
Yeah,
yeah, outside of like CS:GO,
League
Team
of
Fortress 2,
Legends,
like League of Legends, like there's a handful of games
World of
that PC
Warcraft. Yeah.
gamers played, and Alan Wake was not it. Now,
No,
I mean, now it's just another thing, right? It's not that deep anymore. But at the time, yeah, I could see that. I can see
so
them being like, why would you do that?
this is funny. The second QR code. So there's 3 QR codes throughout
Okay.
the PC version of the they have different QR codes for the remastered version, but for the
Okay.
unremastered version, there's 3 specific ones. And the second one, they nod towards us and they say, "Huh? Turns out this isn't too bad, even if you're not sitting on a couch when you play it. Who knew?" And that was a dig right at Microsoft.
Listen, shout out to Remedy, man, because that's the thing about Remedy. They've been making great games for a long, long ass time.
Yeah,
They've been making great games. Max Payne 1, Max Payne 2. How this game ties into not only Max Payne 1, Max Payne 2, but also Control, one of the quintessential games you have to play if you play video games,
hmm
which I haven't played. Don't yell at me.
Yeah, I need to
Um,
play it too. We'll add that to the list. And it's really, it's from what I understand, it's Control's second DLC that like is like a
mhm.
direct
Yeah,
tie
it
into
cements
Alan
it.
Wake 2. It even has Alan Wake show up in it, which doesn't make too much sense. We'll obviously can't talk about that right now, but I don't understand how he can show up.
I mean, even if we think about it like this, like in the gameplay trailer, they're just like, oh, and as you play as a Saga, and you explore this small town, you may see familiar faces, and it's the janitor singing karaoke at the club.
I
Like,
see.
it's like, and it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then how Control ties into Alan Wake, and how Alan Wake is where Alan Wake is. Again, no spoilers, but yeah, how it all ties in together. I feel like Remedy has thought this out a long time, and I feel like they made Alan Wake, and they're like, okay, we're gonna keep our nose down. They don't want us to make Alan Wake 2 right now. That's fine. We'll make. They want a big action game. We're gonna give them big action game, and then we got Control, which is one of the best games ever, according to everyone who's ever played it.
So there's two more like interesting points that I really want to hit here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then these are both kind of random. So the first one is the product placement, the ads.
Mhm.
Did you get that in the remastered?
Of what items? Because I
So
don't think so, but of what items?
so in the original, at least, there is like every car is like a Ford or a Lincoln. The
Okay.
When you're in the
It's not
interior of the
overt.
car, it has like on the screen the Microsoft Sync thing for cars. There's like
Oh,
a few
that's
Verizon
funny.
billboards.
That's funny. No, that
Yeah.
if it is in the remaster, I didn't notice. I was actually very engrossed in the story. I blew up a couple of cars just trying to hit the bad guys with it. Couple of them, like
Yeah.
way more than I should have for sure. Um, and so yeah, no, I didn't run into any product placement. But you want to know something? I feel like that's usually not a sign that Remedy knew that this was going to be a tough sell, but it is a way to guarantee, hey, Verizon, give us X amount of millions of dollars, and we'll put it in this game that costs X amount of millions of dollars. You want to know something? It's probably why Alan Wake got a sequel. Is because they were like, listen, we made this amount of money. That prompts us to be able to make another game, even if it isn't Alan Wake 2. I understand you don't like the name, you don't that didn't generate enough money, but it did generate enough money for us to keep working with Microsoft and just keep
Yep.
working in general. Because again, Remedy's been around forever.
Yep. And so I just looked into it. And yeah, they got rid of the product placement in the remaster. I mean, literally, even the battery packs to pick up batteries for the flashlight
Yeah,
were
Duracell.
Energizer battery packs.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah,
But no,
dude.
I'm telling you, that's probably what it is. They
There's
probably were like, listen, we
there's
want to
even
guarantee.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, no, like a lot of like really bad movies do that. Like they're just like, listen, we're gonna put in this Sony Walkman because we know Sony's gonna give us X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars because we're putting this in a movie. So I
Yep.
have a feeling Remedy was smart enough to go like, listen, this game is weird, dude. Okay, listen, but like a Verizon billboard in the middle of this small town in the middle of America, perfect.
Yeah. So at first I thought it was really jarring because like it literally like when
Mhm.
you're coming in on the boat at the very first thing in the game, I turn around and see Ford right in front of the car, and the next one Lincoln, and I was like, that's odd. Then I get in the car as we drive off of it, and I see Microsoft Sync, and I was like, okay, that's a little jarring. And then like it wasn't until the insane asylum area where
Mhm.
it's actually an achievement on Steam even. There's a TV, and if you turn it on, and the achievement's like watching TV or something like that, and it's literally just ads from that era, like straight up like
So you want to know
Verizon
something
ads,
crazy?
and like oh, there's one or two other ones I watched, and I was like, no way, this is happening right now.
So you want to know something insane in the remaster? There's like a Twilight Zone episode. What's the show? Night Falls in the game.
um,
I think it's Night Falls.
is it Nightfall? I want to say it's.
I
I want
want
to
to
say
say it
there's
was
an
Night
S somewhere
Falls.
in there, but maybe you're right.
Yeah, I thought it was Night Falls. I could be mistaken, but like no, it would just be episodes. And for me, again, with the remastered and with all the ads taken out, you would just turn on the TV and it'll be like this episode of Night Falls, and it'll just be like just I don't know, just like a corny, cheesy black and white episode of just a doctor like accidentally like shooting something, and it's like, what is going on here? Like, what, what?
Yeah.
And mind you, like, this is at the points of the game where it's just like, I have no idea what's going on. Then you turn on this TV, and it's like, I have no idea what's going on. And again, it ties into the story. We don't have to really get into it, but it does tie into the story with the whole like, oh, call whatever and tell them night falls, and it's like, wait a minute, what is happening?
Yeah. No, exactly. So it's Night Springs. I looked it up.
Night Springs. There it goes.
Yeah, I was like, I knew there was an S. Yeah, so Night Springs. And yes, I agree. Like, especially, I really like the one. I watched all of them that I walked past, and I saw the one where the dude had like the quantum gun, and he was like, as long as this machine's on,
that's one of the first ones. Yeah,
I kill someone in another dimension, but it won't kill me in this one. And I was like, yo, this is kind of crazy, actually. I mean, it was cheesy.
It's like really dark. It's like really like disturbingly dark. And again, this is probably 30 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
30, 45 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
And so you literally have no idea what's going on because, again, it's episodic storytelling. It's drip feeding you the story. And so you're just like, okay, that's interesting. And then it's like, this happens. And it's like, what, excuse me? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was so confused. And then eventually shifted to those scenes where you would see yourself in maybe the future. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Oh. Yeah.
And, like, then I was like, well, hold on. Like, I thought all of these were that. So then, like, TVs really became super interesting in that aspect. Because it was like, what are we going to get? Are we just going to get some, like, goofy nonsense? Or are we getting, like, some, like, what's going on mindfuck?
Exactly. And so, listen, we are approaching the 30-minute mark. We are at right about 27 minutes. And so, ladies, gentlemen, party people watching this podcast, thank you. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Corporate shill YouTuber here. But AJ, you ready to talk some Alan Wake spoiler stuff, dog? Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. And if you don't want spoilers for Alan Wake, if you want to play Alan Wake 2 completely blind, maybe we've inspired you to just play Alan Wake. A lot more people should, because the fact that this game didn't sell well enough to get a sequel is crazy. But yeah, no. Spoilers start now.
So the ending.
The ending. Hold up. Can we talk about the fact that I forget the original writer's name, Thomas Zane. When Thomas Zane wrote Alan Wake's childhood, and he knew Alan Wake was going to come in and rewrite Thomas Zane back into existence to get closure for his people, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, that
was
was
like, what is actually going on?
That was some Inception level shit that I was not prepared for.
And then the whole like the diver thing and how that was Thomas Zane and that's why it's Diver's Point, and like the lake has this weird magical power to just make things happen. Like,
yeah,
it's like, okay, cool. And then of course you get to the memeable line, it's not a lake, it's an ocean. And it's just like, what is happening?
Yeah, and then it ends there. It ends on such a cliffhanger.
It just stops. That's it. That is the whole game. You have beat the game when you hear it's not a lake, it's an ocean. And that leads us into Alan Wake 2. And so here's the thing, and how this ties into Alan Wake 2. I feel Alan Wake is like, listen, I need some help getting up out of here, just like Thomas Zane needed me. I feel I need somebody. And so Alan Wake makes Saga. And we know from like all the gameplay stuff revealed that like Saga is investigating this small town and like this like weird countryside or whatever, and like the people there are talking about her like she grew up in this small town. The problem is she's never been here before. So she's just like, okay, yeah. And so like, and then like she'll like read news clippings about her dead daughter, but her daughter's very much alive. They're plotting for her birthday. They're trying to get a party going. She's just like, okay, that's weird. And so it's like, I feel in my heart of hearts, Alan Wake 2 is going to build on Alan Wake 1 in a way that's very, very meaningful. The problem is, here's the problem, and it's not a bad problem to have. The problem is, it's coming out the same year as Resident Evil 4 Remake. And they look a lot alike gameplay-wise, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's the easiest comparison.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good comparison. I think it's going to be less... Okay, never mind. I was going to say, I think it's going to be less action-y than that game, but I think they're going to dial up the action on this one because they're going to need to grab those people that have never played it, like with a bunch of exciting, cool guns, because that's just.
And don't get me wrong, Alan Wake 2 looks beautiful. Like if I was just a random, just somebody that was just like, I want to pick up a game, and it's just like Alan Wake 2. It's like, oh, that game looks really pretty, like
Yeah.
really pretty. And then you got Alan Wake still in the ocean shadow dimension. I forget what it's called. And then you got Saga that's supposed to be in the real world, but Alan Wake is writing what's happening in the real world. So like it's kind of not the real world, or he's affecting the real world from the shadow place. It's a lot going on, AJ, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, and in that vein, is Alan Wake's world even real? Is this still Thomas Zane's story?
So listen, I don't know, AJ. AJ, we aren't gonna know until we play the game, and
No.
that's what's exciting, right? But as excited as I am for Alan Wake 2, because don't get me wrong, I wanted to play Alan Wake 2 when I saw the trailers. I was like, oh, they're making another one. I gotta hop on because Alan Wake is a cult classic, period.
Yeah.
So when I went back and played it, finally, I wanted to play it when it was released, but like I don't know, I was 12. I don't remember. I don't remember what happened. No, I wasn't even 12. I was like 9. Never mind. It's not the point. My point is, I didn't play it when it came out, but I wanted to. And so when I heard they were making another one, I was like, I gotta get on it because I don't know what's gonna happen, but something great's gonna be there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, you felt quite the opposite. You were like, I don't care about Alan Wake, and like that's fair. That's a fair stance to have.
Yeah.
To not know anything about the games.
Yeah, no, I like quite literally didn't even know the premise of it. Like I said, I didn't even know it was horror. So I didn't like. I've never heard anything. I knew it was big. Again, like a cult classic. Like I knew it had a big like people that liked it really liked it. And usually I am drawn to that kind of stuff because it's those hidden gems that most people don't play, even though they're not quite so hidden. Like I feel like a lot of people have heard of Alan Wake, but I feel
A
like
lot of people
most
heard of Alan Wake, but not a lot of people played it.
Yeah, most people are the same boat as me. They've heard of it, haven't even seen gameplay, don't even understand what it is. And
And I honestly, I feel like we're still in that same position
yeah,
because, like, I mean, I haven't heard of Alan Wake 2 pre-orders like breaking any records at all, which is kind of crazy when you take
yeah,
a step back, when you see how beautiful it is, when you see once you played the first game, you're like, yo, the story. Also, apparently, there's a whole other version of Alan Wake that was expanded upon in the American Nightmare DLC. Apparently, there's just a dark version of Alan Wake that escaped in the real world named Mr. Scratch. He's just doing shit.
huh?
He's just in the world, just doing
Didn't see
stuff.
that. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sure we'll
so
see that
now
play
he's
out.
like, and so yeah, and so now you got Alan Wake trying to get back to the real world because now you have Mr. Scratch, which is just Alan Wake from the dark, doing stuff. Just like, yeah, I just want to kill people and like do crack in a motel room and you can't stop me.
Yeah, it's written in the story. It's a canon event, as I like to say in Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And just all that being said, I hope like in I hope everyone wants the Baldur's Gate 3 moment where it's like we made a great game, we hope it sells well, and then it blows every expectation ever to expect out of the water,
yeah.
right? We all love that story. The problem is I doubt it. I don't know if it's gonna do that.
It's not gonna happen. Because Baldur's Gate is literally like D&D in a game. This isn't revolutionizing how games work. It's just going to be a really good horror thriller that everyone needs to try. That not many
That came
people are
out
going
the
to try.
same year as Resident Evil 4 remake, which is kind of that's steep competition. So now, again, kind of to bring it back to the game of the year competition, you have Alan Wake 2, which on the surface, if you did not know any better, looks a lot like Resident Evil 4. If you didn't know any better, but I feel like Alan Wake 2 has like better combat. Like the fact you can dodge in Alan Wake 2 is crazy.
They
Like, and the Resident Evil 4 remake doesn't have the tank controls, but like it's still really rigid. Like that's just one thing.
What Alan Wake's 2 is going to have on Resident Evil 4 is going to be just the mechanics, the fluidity, because it is a new game. Resident Evil 4 is, building off a pre-existing, really old game. And so you're not going to have a lot of advancements. I mean, they might add a few things here and there, make smooth some things out, but really it's going to be the same game for the most part.
It
Where
is, and I will say, as someone I've actually played the Resident Evil 4 remake, and I went in completely blind. I never played the original Resident Evil 4. I probably could have. I had a Wii, I had a GameCube, I had no excuse, and yeah, I just jumped right into the Resident Evil 4 remake. And honestly, here's art imitating life, imitating art. Okay, I feel like RE4 plays a lot like what Alan Wake wanted to play like.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Like because the way the levels are set up is that there's almost like a hub, but it's all one fluid, seamless thing. But there's like a hub, and then you go to the level, and you go, and it's pretty much open world, but on a very, 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 very small kind of scope. And so you go through, and then like everything's beautiful and everything's scary, and enemies die with like 15 shots a person, right? It's like it reminds me a lot of Alan Wake going back, minus the flashlight element. And so now we got Alan Wake 2, where it's like, oh snap, like now this is that, but on steroids. And it's like, now I can dodge. Now we have like this way to stun enemies. Now we have like flare guns. Flare guns saved my life so many times. Yeah, and so you have all of these things, and it's like, I hope that the reason why RE4 became such a phenomenon this year, that's a contender for game of the year in my humble opinion. The reason why that works, I hope that the same word of mouth spreads about Alan Wake 2. I hope.
I really do. I don't think it's going to, though, because again, it's not Resident Evil 4. It is Alan Wake at the end of the day. It doesn't have that name behind it. I think it's going to innovate more, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to happen. I'd love to see it over Resident Evil 4 because it's had that limelight for so long. But we'll
forever.
See. I mean, we still got to see those numbers, so we'll see. I think it'll come down to how much they innovate. If they really innovate on this game and make it a lot more advanced than the last one while keeping the really good story elements, I think we have a chance.
Yeah, and apparently the story is weirder, which it makes me happy.
That makes me happy, but it's not gonna be good for sales.
It's not. I mean, no, nothing's ever good for sales when you deal with Remedy, AJ. But then I don't know, because here's the only reason I have a little bit of hope is because Control is Control.
Yeah, and that game got big.
Control is just as weird, just as avant-garde, just as grotesque, just as confusing and mind-blowing as Alan Wake could ever try to be. They're in the same universe, and it's still regarded as this golden baby of video games.
But you also see a lot of those people didn't like when I talk to a lot of people about that game. Yes, there are some people that talk about how good the story is, but a lot of people just say how good the gameplay is. And I think it's just because I think half of it is because superpowers. It's it's not your
customizable superpowers. Apparently, like, you only get one gun in the game. I've seen several videos of Control, ladies and gents. I've just never actually played it. I promise you, I'm not a casual. So apparently you just get one gun, and not only do you get the one gun, you customize what it does. So like, if you're like, listen, like I really like shotguns, like you can kind of make it basically a shotgun. If you're like, yo, I really want kind of more like a Uzi type thing, you can make it like a Uzi type thing. And the fact that you can fly just on command, there's no limit, there's no meter, you can just float on command. The fact that you get more and more powers as the game goes on, and you become essentially like a god, more or less.
Yeah,
like that's kind of like the ultimate weird power trip fantasy in this weird power trip world where you have to be power trippy.
Absolutely.
Right. And then you have Alan Wake, which is the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's just going to be walking and shooting and flashlights, which I love.
Dodging and still getting hit when you dodge. The amount of AJ, I took a lot of axes to my forehead and Alan Wake,
the throwing guys would come out of nowhere.
Listen, they would come out of the shadows, behind the trees from behind you, and you're like, okay, great, I'm a dodge, and they'll anticipate it. Also, I don't know if you peeped how smart the AI is in Alan Wake, because when you like set a flare down, for example, the enemies will actually retreat to the shadows.
Yep.
And when I noticed that, it like kind of blew my mind. I was like, what? I was like, you know that if you hide behind this lamppost just this right way, you're in the dark and you're not hurt? What?
For how old of a game that is, that's crazy.
It came out in 2008, AJ.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely
It came out when Obama got elected, dog. Like, what are we talking about?
It came out around the same time of Mario Sunshine. Like, just to give an idea.
Mario Sunshine was still impressive.
Oh, it was. Oh, absolutely. But think about how polar opposites those mechanics are, though. Just so
it came out the same time Resident Evil 4 was getting released for the Wii again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, wait a minute. So how do you build on that? Because the levels in Alan Wake 2 look a lot smaller, which isn't a bad thing because the levels in the original Alan Wake, I'm not gonna lie, AJ, the levels were too goddamn big.
Yeah, especially again those first two chapters. Like towards the end, I was like, all right, I'm ready for the next chapter. Like let's end this one.
The only thing that kept you going was the story. I was the same
Yes.
way because I kept dying and I wanted to quit, but I was like, no, because I gotta know what happens.
Yes, and then but then again, you hit like past the police chase scene in chapter 3. It was past then where I feel like the game, because then you meet the kidnapper, the fake kidnapper, and like you have that intense scene where he's like wanting to shoot the guy and he's like delaying plans, and then again all of a sudden now we're in a mine shaft. Now we're like going back through the town, and like different people are starting to actually take notice. Then we go to the insane asylum, which that was so cool. Like such a great
It was
piece
really
to
cool.
add to this. Like already the game's spooky enough, and now we're like with psychos. Like so.
Don't even get me started
Flippin'
on
cool.
the simple fact that the bosses of the game is pretty good. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. When you're going through that little farm area and a tractor comes out of nowhere,
That tractor, oh my gosh, because I like it, it drove past me and I was like, okay, cool. And then it didn't run all the way into the wall. It stopped, backed up and turned
and it
towards me, and I immediately shit my pants and went, oh, that's what I'm dealing with. And all I have is like a few flares and my flashlight. I'm like,
and
oh,
like
and
yeah,
there's
like
just
30 shots in
bodies
a revolver.
everywhere. Yes.
Yeah, no. Yes, the bosses are kind of insane. Like the tractor blew my mind because I was like, yeah, no, my girlfriend was sitting right here. She's like disassociating, just on her phone, living
Yeah.
life, being happy as she should. I'm jealous of her. And I'm playing, and a tractor comes out of nowhere. I was like, look, and she was like, what the fuck? Like, what do you like? I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
And I
then you have
hope
this
they.
sick ass rock scene with your
Oh my.
the concert dude, and you have your I really liked your agent. That guy was cool. He was your
He was
classic
cool
agent
when he
from
was
LA.
useful.
Fantastic. He's
Yeah, no, he
running
was
everything
great
as
when
you're
he actually
shooting
did
everyone.
stuff.
Like that was so fucking cool.
It was really cool. You get the bigger guns and more ammo everywhere, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can make this work.
Yeah, it was. I almost felt like a zombie like survival part of the game where I'm just blasting dudes.
Yeah, just blowing everybody away, and just everything was sparkly. And then it's like there are moments like this where it's like people need to play Alan Wake, and then I hope they build on this in Alan Wake 2. It looks like it's taking itself way more self-serious. It should, it can. It's not my story. I didn't write it, but I feel like people look, because if you look at an Alan Wake trailer, if you look at the early like E3 2006 2007 demos, it's like okay, like yeah, like it's gray.
Yeah.
That's 360 era. It's very gray. It's not the original Alan Wake is not a very pretty game. It doesn't look impressive until you play it and you go like, wait a minute, you telling me I have a flashlight? Like, what do you mean? Like, these things are coming at me with axes and they're punching me. You don't have a melee attack. You can't dodge really. You can't roll. You can't parry. And you're telling me I have a flashlight. What are you talking about?
And so that grayness is what bothered me a lot. And I guess I didn't play remastered, so I hope they fixed it. But either way, I hope it's not
They
in 2
didn't.
where
It's fine.
it was like I was walking through in the trees, and I'm fine with the fog, but the fog was too bright. I was like, my screen is like actually fairly bright because the fog was like a light gray. I was like, I wish
Yeah.
this was like a very dark fog that's like mysterious.
Yeah,
and
no,
hard,
they
like,
they
thick,
fixed it. I
but
will tell
dark.
you. Like there were moments. I don't think I ever actually. I think I might have adjusted my brightness once because I was like, it's supposed to be dark, but damn, like
I had
like
to crank
there
my
was
all the way
like
down, and I still was like, it needs to be darker. I need to be spooked. Like I can
yeah. And then
clearly see
listen,
a
I feel
body
like they
versus
achieved.
the fog. Like it was very
And
simple.
I feel like they achieved that sensation of just like this is eerie, in the new Alan Wake, but more so from a sense of like what similar to like the first 2 chapters of Alan Wake of like what is actually happening, like what do you mean, like what do you mean your wife is missing, how, like what are you saying?
Yeah. And then I also, one thing I hope they improve on. I doubt they're gonna improve on this because it was a key part of the game. But whenever you got close to running into enemies, it would get all like foggy and like you know what I'm talking about. Like it would get like distorted.
Huh?
And I thought that was a cool
Yeah.
effect, especially the first few times. But then after a while, it was like, okay, here comes enemies. Like it just told
It
me that
didn't
I was
it
about to
didn't
get
bother me
attacked.
too much. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it didn't bother me too much. Maybe they kind of touched it up in the remaster, but it didn't bother me too much. Just be I mean, granted, like I felt it was always the most beneficial to just stay on the back foot. Like you walk into an area and you just kind of like slow, not kite them back necessarily, but definitely just always have your back towards the exit. Never
Yeah.
like not like have too many guys like in front of you or behind you, but like definitely just like sort of backing up a lot. And I don't know, that's similar to a Souls like in a lot of ways where it's like, okay, I'm gonna back up, I'm gonna dodge, light, okay, bang bang, oh, you're gonna adjust, and you know, it's kind of like a
Yeah.
dance in that way.
See, and like I want to be I wanted to be encouraged to do that. And that was my problem is I was sitting here going like, okay, I can run forward and as soon as my screen gets all distorted, then I turn around. It literally told me enemies are near you. Is like that and that's how I felt.
Yeah.
I wanted to be
Listen,
like walking and all of a sudden boom, axe to the back of the head. You should have been listening.
I feel like they fixed that in the new one. I feel like there are several moments in the gameplay trailers just that we've seen just in the public that's very much just like, okay, this isn't holding your hand. Versus in the previous one, yeah, no, that effect of them kind of like the camera zooming out and them like running out of the
Yeah.
shadows, and then even then like it would be a lot of guys. Like even
Oh
with
yeah.
with that effect, I never felt that I was safe. I never felt that I knew where everybody was. Like, because right when it's like, okay, great, I got three guys, somebody would come up and punch me in the side of the head. It's like, wait a minute, I thought there was just three, just five. Wait a minute, like, and there's always that moment. So I feel like they fixed that in the new one. I feel like they also made it more fair, which I don't know how to feel about it. It's probably gonna feel better from a gameplay
I
standpoint, but
I really hope they did because again before the scenery change, I was getting really bored because literally I was just walking through a forest and going like, "Yep, here come the enemies!" Like, and then like
mhm,
I'd just spin around and then as soon as I did that, I would do the slow mo thing. I'd be like, "Yep, there they are." Shoot them.
mhm.
Just keep walking. Then like it got boring, but again, then it got really interesting once the story picked up, and we like that police chase scene, and also police chase scene, super cool. Liked how they did that. I wish they could damage you. I thought that was very lame because I knew as soon as I pressed
Could they
sprint,
not? I can't remember.
as soon as I pressed sprint, he wouldn't dodge first. He would just start sprinting, which
Mhm.
told me that I wasn't in
Yeah.
combat, which means I can't get hurt. So I literally like it
Hmm.
almost took me out because I was like, I now no longer feel urgency. I can't get hurt.
Yeah. I never noticed that. Maybe that was just me not paying attention. But yeah, I never noticed that. Again, remaster. I don't know if they fixed it at all.
And I don't either.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I very much felt like and then like even when your stamina ran down, which Alan Wake, you need to hit the fucking gym, dude. Jesus Christ, you can't run 7 steps without almost passing out. Like it's insane. But
Uh,
yeah, no,
so
I just
that also is something else. The stamina. I wish I don't want a stamina bar or anything like that. I nope.
mm,
What I wish they did though is when you're low on stamina and you're like walking, I wish there was just like a little dark effect, like a breathing effect on the screen to make it a little harder to see, so that
could
way
be
it
fun.
encourages you to not run out of breath.
Yeah, yeah, because it's easy because you're so much faster than all of the enemies. Literally all of the enemies.
Uh huh.
Like if you could run forever, none of the enemies would be a problem. But
No.
the fact that you only get 10 good steps, like 10 before you
Yeah.
start hobbling, it's like, okay, this is not my best strategy ever. I have to engage if I want to progress.
Yeah. And that's again where I want like I feel like the mix of like the fog being more eerie and like doing that, for example, like running out of breath, like making it harder to see,
Mhm.
I think would make it a lot more intense. Because again, my problem was is I just was getting very bored because it felt samey after a while. Just like here's 4 enemies, and it got announced to me beforehand. So I feel like those two things to at least make it the visibility harder would make it a lot more intense.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. And like I really feel like they're hitting all of that in Alan Wake 2. I really do. I don't know how much of the newer gameplay you've been seeing closer to release, but it doesn't feel like the first one at all, which for better or worse.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like the first game at all. I mean, obviously you still have your flashlight, you still got your guns, you still like are going, but like all of the gameplay I've seen, it's been like one or two enemies, maybe three or four, which is a far cry from the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 that you would have to fight in the original levels. But I don't know, it feels like a little bit tighter in scope and like a little bit more focused, which means weirder storytelling. I'm
Good.
excited. And yeah, no, I just more people need to play Alan Wake. That is my dissertation. That is my thesis, and I will get a doctorate with that dissertation.
I have one last food for thought before we get to a
Hmm.
review. I think of what we
Yeah.
think, where we think this game ranks amidst
Hmm.
the generation it released in. Um,
Okay.
what was the point of the coffee mugs, the thermoses?
Oh, the thermoses. Okay. I don't know. Now I will say I got like 25 of them, like 50 of them. Like so I didn't get all 100, but I got a lot, and I think it's just a completionist thing. I think it's just for the people who just want something to collect or want something. I don't actually know what the because the thermoses don't do anything. Like period. They don't do anything.
No, so I googled this. This is
Okay.
wiki.
Learn me something, AJ.
But
Learn
they
me
are
something.
so they're
Teach me.
scattered throughout the game. You need to keep your eyes peeled in order to find them. There's a total of 100. I know I at least got 50 because I got the achievement on Steam where you have to collect the 50,
Mhm.
at least 50. However, in Alan, so they don't do anything. They're literally just collectibles, and like they you gain
Mhm.
nothing from doing all of them. Literally, they are
Mhm.
pointless.
Yes.
However, in Alan Wake 2, coffee thermoses are no longer collectibles and instead work as a way for a player to save their progress in the game.
Instead of the light. Ooh, that's interesting.
I don't like that because I hope they're obvious. I'm sure they will be.
They're going to be obvious.
Because if I have to go like find one, like I come around a corner to this hidden area and there's a thermos I can save. Thank God. Like
I don't.
That's
Yeah.
how you drop me.
The only reason I don't think they're gonna be like anything that complicated or that weird, I mean, there's probably gonna be like some special thermoses that might like strategically put you in a better place, but I don't think they're gonna do anything that crazy. Only because Remedy again has been doing this for a very long time, and they've been doing it very well for a very long time too. So I trust them. Trust the people that made Max Payne 1 and 2 and Control. I trust them to be like, you know what, the same people that put the checkpoints in Alan Wake, I trust them to be like, hey, listen, idiot, go to the Starbucks and get a thermos. Just get a thermos full of coffee. Just do it. I trust them,
Yeah.
right? But that is weird. I mean, and it makes more sense, just from a more modern standpoint, because like streetlights, nobody knows to go to streetlights anymore, which I feel is a societal thing. But we don't have to talk about it, AJ. This is a gaming podcast. But
Uh, Well, but see, like at the same time, though, the whole theme of the game is light. Like, go towards the light. The light
yeah.
is safety. So it's also like pretty obvious.
Mhm.
Like, light, no bad guys. You know, like it was. But I get what you're saying at the same time. Um,
I trust them. I trust them and their new direction. I don't know. I hope that they
agree.
don't do the Spider-Man 3 thing where it's like, dog, we made Spider-Man 1 and 2, we got it. Like, I hope that they're very much like, okay, this is what made these games special. This is what makes this game special. This is what makes that game different from this game, different from. I trust them to do that because they haven't let us down yet, unless
Yeah.
you count that game, that Quantum game they made after Alan Wake. In which case, it wasn't bad. It was not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually like very similar to Alan Wake in a lot of ways. Obviously, minus the light mechanic. Obviously, it wasn't a horror game. It was just a straight action game. But like, there's a whole TV show in the game that you can watch to get more details on just the information.
Speaking of which,
Very similar.
Alan Wake could easily be a TV show. I think that would be. I think
The
that'd be
fact
great.
that
They
it
did like
isn't lets me know that someone isn't doing their job.
a one season special, and then you could do a season 2 for Alan Wake 2. Like, I mean, literally, you don't need to I mean, you can expand the whole universe. I'm so sick of all these franchises of streaming services having all these TV shows and movies.
Are you
and
telling
it's
me you
ruining
don't want
everything.
Control the
But
movie? Are you telling me you don't want a Bureau of Control movie, AJ?
I
You telling me you don't want these abstract buildings to be a plot point in your feature film?
that would be okay. That'd be really cool. But I just don't. I don't want to go too far into it. I think it's just really bad for the
Okay.
TV
No, that's
landscape.
fair.
But again, like
That's
you
fair.
said,
No.
this is a gaming podcast. I just think this would work really well as a TV show, as
It would be
a short one.
from the episodic storytelling to like the really interesting plot to like who the fuck is Thomas Zane to like
Yeah.
the mention of like other things where it's like, wait a minute, that is a reference to Max Payne just casually. Like it.
Well, and they
yeah,
have
no,
references
everything.
to Control. Like,
Yeah.
forward references to way before Control was made. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, because listen, again, AJ, I trust Remedy because say what you want about Remedy. They make weird shit on purpose, with purpose, at a very high level, but they also do it with a very specific plan and a very specific vision in mind. And for that, I trust them to make Alan Wake 2 and make it the game we deserve. I hope it performs well commercially. No, AJ, I don't know, man. I want it to real bad, but I don't know.
I don't think it's gonna, but I really wanted to. Okay, so with all that being said, let's wrap up here. What do we think it deserves in the whole PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii era? Where does it fit in?
Is it really ahead of its time? Like, look at okay. So I feel like I remember at the time it came out, it was getting a lot of 8s, a lot of 8.5s, a lot of 9s, right? I honestly feel, this is a hot take. I honestly feel that it's not a perfect game, but damn, it's close.
So here, really quick, before we get into this, just to give a little background. Here's some games.
Yeah.
That came out in 2008 with it.
Let's do it.
Fallout 3, Grand Theft Auto 4,
okay.
Metal Gear Solid 4, Left 4 Dead, Little Big Planet, that's a spin-off God of War, Dead Space, Smash Bros. Brawl, Persona 4, Fable 2, Far Cry 2, Mario Kart Wii, Mirror's Edge, Devil May Cry 4, which I know that one is a weak
2008
one.
was a stacked year, dude.
Oh, Call of Duty World at War, Soul Calibur 4, Lego Batman. Oh,
okay, you know
Star
what?
Wars The Force Unleashed.
You know something? You want to know something, AJ? You want to know something, AJ? I feel like an 8 out of 10 because I remember it getting a lot of 8s at the time. A lot of 8s. A lot of it's great but not perfect. I feel like an 8 is appropriate, all things considered. Looking back with like my nostalgic glasses and appreciating how hard it is, one, to make a game now, and two, how hard it is to make a game as complicated and interesting as Alan Wake. I want to give it higher, but I feel like an 8 is appropriate.
Yeah, really what hurts it a lot for me, and it's hard to make a game like this work in this context, but the replayability is really low.
Yeah, there is none.
Because it's
There's
so
no reason to go back
and
and play it again.
I love it because it is so story focused, but so it's really hard to make really high replayability and really heavy story because it's the same story. But man, do I wish there was something with
you had a reason to go back.
That right there is the biggest thing that hurts. But again, I don't know how they could. Like, it's hard to even ask that. I think 8 is pretty fair. I'm almost wanting to bump it down to 7, which is crazy because I love this game now. I recommend it.
Well, I mean, no, it's fair. There's like just some simple things like no melee attacks is kind of crazy. No parry is kind of crazy.
You know what? I'm gonna bump it back up to 8 for the balls they had to release a mainly single player game during the PS3 and Xbox 360 era.
Yeah, the height of Xbox Live and PlayStation Online and like the genesis, like where every studio was like, get these children on the internet, because that is not how you end up on any FBI list, my loyal viewers.
Absolutely. I think I'm gonna bump back up to 8 for and also the whole light mechanic. No one else has done that at the time. Looking at the times
or since.
Yeah, really. Yes.
Or since.
I'd say an 8 is completely fair.
8 is very fair. I want to give it higher because the storytelling, the world building. I was when they started throwing fucking buckets at you, dog, I was like, this is a great game.
Well, when they like revealed that like this has already happened, but you wrote it in the past but don't remember writing it, and so now you're living out what you already wrote, is like, and then on top of that you were being controlled when you wrote it, so it's like, oh god, like what is gonna happen? Because
like you're being controlled when you wrote it, but it was all written by the guy who you wrote to save you, who knew that you were gonna write him because he wrote. It's the story is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I was not expecting it.
The story is a 10. Okay, you know what? Breakaway story 10 out of 10. I don't know how the people came up with that, and if the story at Alan Wake 2 like is half as good as the original, that's okay, because the first one is kind of insane actually.
Yeah, I think Story's 10 out of 10. Gameplay is a 6 out of 10 because it gets really repetitive.
You dropped 2 points in the matter of 5 seconds, AJ.
I said gameplay, not the game
Okay.
overall.
Okay, no, I'll give you that. Okay. Oh, but it averages out to an 8. That's what we're doing?
Yeah, that's
okay.
what I was thinking.
Yeah,
just
I'll take
like it is the constant point a light at them till they like snap into form and then shoot them, and it's like the enemy diversity is really low. There's only 3 different enemies, right? There's 4. Your main guy, your stronger, like your heavier guy, you're the chainsaw guy, and then the guy that can zip around.
Yeah, shout out chainsaw guy. Oh, and axe guy.
Oh, the axe throwing guy, which I lumped in with the basic
That's
guys.
like 4.
But yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Still like 4.
I just felt like it needed because, like, well, again, I lumped in those 2 together automatically just because they're the same like strength,
and they come in the first like 2 levels.
And then like the stronger guy who doesn't throw anything ever, and he just walks towards you, and then you get
he just walks up on you and just beats you into a dark puddle.
Yeah, and then you get the chainsaw guy who just has more health, which like, yes, and like the whole chainsaw thing, whatever, but. I feel like there needs to be some more variation there. It just felt like the same. It's the same strategy, just more bullets, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if they work on the guns, also give them each one a new version. I think way better gameplay then. I just think it was a little lackluster.
And also melee attacks. The fact I couldn't punch these guys is bothering me. AJ, I feel like that's all we have to say about Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2. Okay. Do you feel like it's going to be, forget mainstream successful top 10 best games ever made. Do you think it's going to at least break even? Do you feel like it's going to make enough money to get an Alan Wake 3? I don't think so. Only because Alan Wake 2 is crazy.
I want it to succeed so bad so we get Alan Wake 3, and I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't.
I don't think it will, but...
The marketing's been dead on it, for the most part. I haven't seen much.
But it's the same people that make Control. Like, that's the only thing. That's the ace in the hole. But you want to know something? AJ, I feel like that's all I got on Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2. Do you have anything else you want to say? Anything fun?
Everyone down in the comments, just let us know what you thought of it. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. What experiences you had. If you felt the same way I did about the combat, or if you didn't think it was as bad like Anthony here. So I would love to hear that. While you're at it, make sure you leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever you prefer, and
leave both of them. Just do this in the like button, and that's all we got. Thank you, Mediocre Gamer family.